talk. So Joe and I, before session started, agreed to give talks from this collection called The Hidden Lamp. And the subtitle is Stories from 25 Centuries of Awakened Women. And the book is a compilation that two women put together of 100 stories. So they're not, some of them are classical koans that you see in koan collections. Are you hearing me okay now? I'm really trying to project. You could come closer. So some of them are koans that you would see in classic, like the Blue Cliff Record and the Book of Equanimity, and some of them are stories. There are some stories of basically contemporary women teachers who have passed on, and then also some stories from past times that are not koans, and that's one that I'm going to share today. And the preface, which Choa pointed out, was written by Norman Fisher, who is a man. And it's very much, both he and the women that put the collection together are very much emphasizing that this is for everybody. And we live in a non-binary world, so it's for everybody. And it is highlighting the experience of women, because that has not been highlighted for millennium. And we recently, I think maybe in the last 10 years even, have added honoring the women ancestors in the morning while we do service. That's all really new. So it's really great that they put this together, and I really had never paid attention to this book before. It's really rich. So it is in our library, and I encourage you, if you're curious at all, to have a look. And I just wanted to read you a couple of comments that were made in the forward. Norman Fisher is saying how the Blue Cliff Record and the Book of Serenity had two authors, and the Mumon Khan, the Gateless Gate, had one. So it's very unusual that you have collaborators from multiple traditions, multiple lineages put together in this kind of way. So it is sort of tellingly female from that perspective of it's more circular in that kind of way. Yeah, and he says, this collection by and about women is not just for women, it's for everyone. In bringing forward the voices of women, the balance that Buddhism and all religion has always promised, but so far not delivered, is now possible. This collection is for everyone who is looking to complete the broken circle that exists in all our great religions and in our hearts and the world. And I think that really is why Choa suggested us focusing on this, because the voices of women are so underheard. And in our, I picked a story that feels pretty provocative, and I thought about backing away from it, but I kept coming back to it. So I thought we could eliminate the recording if we need to. But so many of the classic koans do have a woman scattered here and there, and it's basically usually a crone. It's an older woman selling rice cakes on the side of the road, getting the better of a monk that thinks they know everything. It's a little bit typical of those kinds of stories. So this collection has just such a variety of stories, and women of all different ages and men of all different ages. Couple things from the folks that put this together. So we call the book The Hidden Lamp because while the lamp of Buddhist women's wisdom has been burning through the centuries, its light has been hidden from view. Many of the more familiar Buddhist and Zen stories are about monks living in monasteries. Here you will meet all kinds of people on the spiritual path, not just monks and nuns and teachers, but also husbands and wives, teenagers, hermits, and cooks, courtesans, and uppity grandmothers. Yes, this is a book that features women, but there are men here too in almost every story. This is a book of human stories and human teachings. So, here's the story that I picked to share with you. So this is ostensibly from Japan in the 14th century. And the title is Yoshihimi's Look, Look. Yoshihime was a nun at Tokaji and the daughter of a general. She was very strong, and her nickname was Devil Girl. She wanted to meet with the teacher at the monastery of Engakuji, but the gatekeeper monk barred her way with a shout. "What is it?" "The gate through which the Buddhas come into the world." Yoshihime grabbed his head and forced it between her legs and said, "Look, look." The monk said, "In the middle there is a fragrance of wind and dew." Yoshihime said, "This monk, he's not fit to keep the gate. He ought to be looking after the garden." The gatekeeper ran into the temple and reported this to the teacher's attendant, who said, "Let me test her." So the attendant went to the gate and asked her again, "What is it?" "The gate through which the Buddhas come into the world." Yoshihime grabbed his head and held it between her legs and said, "Look, look." The attendant said, "The Buddhas of the three worlds come, giving light." Yoshihime said, "This monk is one with the eye. He saw the 84,000 gates all thrown open." So, you should see the look on your face. So, what kind of struck me as two aspects of this story, and there's so much that we could talk about. That in some ways, the Buddha's coming into the world is always coming out of mystery and, in a way, magic. I have birthed children, and I know how they were conceived intellectually, and I know they were growing inside of me. But the actual experience of them being born is total magic. I was remembering that my daughter, when she was about 3 or 4, she must have overheard that we were talking something about somebody having a baby. And she said, "I remember being born." And my daughter is very forthright about everything. And so we said, "Really?" And she said, "Yeah, the big ocean was pushing me down, pushing me down." So she really did remember being born then. Now it's just a story that she's heard about herself. But the big ocean, the mystery, the big ocean pushing her down, pushing her down. So there's an aspect of the story, which apparently the background is that at this temple, the monks were not very favorable about having women practice there. And so the gatekeeper, and again, like Cho has said yesterday, we don't want to take things superficially and put people in bad slots. Well, he was a jerk, He was given the job, right? He's the gatekeeper. So his job is to keep people, anybody who doesn't seem like they should be there, out. So he asks her a question, a dharmic question. Where is the birthplace of the Buddhists? What's your answer if you want to come in here? And she doesn't give him a theoretical answer. She doesn't give him a dharmic answer. She gives him an earthy, practical answer. This is where all Buddhas come from. any human who's born in this world came from here. And she grabs his head and sticks it there. I just love that image. And then he responds with this kind of poetry. I don't know, the dew and the something. He says, in the middle, there is a fragrance of wind and dew. That might be true sometimes, but a lot of the time it isn't. But it's a poetic kind of response, and I think, it's accurate in some ways, but it doesn't match where she's coming from. So she says, go, I want to talk to the teacher. So he runs in and gets the teacher's attendant, who's, in all likelihood more closer to the teacher's mind. And she does the same thing again. And then the attendant says, the Buddhas of the three worlds come, giving light. So apparently the name of the Buddha Hall when he speaks of giving light, he is acknowledging the name of the great Dharma Hall of Enkinkuji, known as Great Light Hall. All the awakened ones have passed through the cervix and vagina of the mother of all Buddhas, and so Yoshihime is to be revered and respected. So it would seem to me that the teacher's attendant, and she is a nun with a teacher, that they are more talking the same language, we every morning we chant the Heart Sutra, the Mahaprajna Paramita Heart Sutra, and it's known as the birthplace, as the mother of all Buddhas. And what is the central tenet of the Heart Sutra? Form is emptiness, emptiness is form. So the birthplace of the Buddhas is right here, right now, as this life of Buddha nature that we are living always. Impossible not to be. And there's also the very practical aspect of how did we get here? We were all born of a mother. And without those mothers, we wouldn't be here. So the mothers are the birthplace of the Buddha in a very real way. And coming all the way back to appreciating the stories of 25 generations, 25 centuries of awakened women. This just points to that kind of prejudice that has been, and Norman Fisher points out, in all religions, to kind of deny the contribution of the feminine. And in fact, the question that came up from Choa's talk yesterday was, well, when did this start, this idea that we were sharing about, that one needs to be born into a male body to become enlightened? So I looked it up. And it does not go back to the Buddha. The Buddha, upon questioning, said, gender does not matter. Anyone can experience this awakened nature that we already are. However, from what I remember, the Buddha was not very favorable about letting women into the monastic order. And from what I understand, he felt like it would complicate things, which when you get multiple genders of people together, it tends to complicate things. Anybody who's done a summer ongo knows summer camp gets complicated. So understandable, maybe it was legitimate at the time, and he did end up letting women in. But it wasn't because he felt women were incapable of realization or awakening. It was more a cultural thing at the time. And from what I read, and it's really not a surprise at all, over time, monastic orders that sort of took, let's say, sort of took control of the storyline post, hundreds of years after Buddha. That's when this idea came into play that women are not capable of becoming enlightened. And back to the story that Tara's vow that Joa shared yesterday, that she vowed lifetime after lifetime to come back as a woman. I also thought that it made me think about what we consider to be privilege or advantage is also a culturally determined thing. Because my experience as being in a female personage in this lifetime is I think there's great advantages to being a woman. It is, in general, easier for us to talk about our feelings. In general, it's easier for us to have a strong network of other women that we rely on as a sisterhood. In general, the men that we are close to in our lives access some of that through us. And I also have a son. I have a son and a daughter, which have been extremely blessed to have. And I remember my son telling me, this is probably like 10 years ago because we talk a lot, and I remember him saying, because I would always say, I'm curious what you think about this or what you feel about that. So he said, Mom, I'm going to call you Curious George because everything is you're curious about it. But I remember him saying, I will answer any question about how I feel or what's going on in my life, but don't expect me to bring it up. You're going to have to ask me. So that's the way in which I think the feminine principle, not just women, but femininity kind of softens things up. And there's also great strength in it. So the invitation to really look at this collection as a way to look at the contribution of the feminine is just a wonderful invitation. And we're very, very lucky at this time in practice that so much has been broken through of a lot of the older ideas about women being ordained, women teaching, women leading groups. Ironically or interestingly enough, I remember at the turn of the 2000, Genpo Merzel saying that what is going to change Buddhism in this country is women being in leadership roles. Funny source, but interesting. So I do kind of want to circle back around to a couple things about that I thought were maybe worth mentioning in terms of working on koans. Anybody who's working on koans, is that the response here was relevant, grounded in our lives. Look. It wasn't abstract. It wasn't an idea. It wasn't theoretical. So when we work on koans, to try to get down to what is actually real here, how does it relate? How can I put myself into this and have it come alive in me? So that's one thing. And then coming back to the Heart Sutra, that yes, all of us were born of a female body. And the birthplace of the Buddhas is thusness, is thisness, is right here, right now. And it is in seeing through all of our concepts and ideas about male, female, privileged, not privileged, and what is this open field of emptiness, Buddha nature, God, whatever you want to call it. That is the birthplace of the Buddhas. So it has to do with coming through this female body, and it has nothing to do with coming through this female body. Yeah, and I, being more on the timid side myself, I just loved that she's the daughter of a general. She grew up somehow seeing what exerting power looks like. And she's very strong, and her nickname is Devil Girl. You know, she's, the idea of being very strong was not considered holy for her as a girl. And many of us deal with that kind of thing. I happened to talk to Seisen earlier today, and she was saying, she said, June is the month of the fire woman. So that encouraged me to do this talk today. And to really honor Devil Girl, to really honor that fierce femininity that isn't just all gushy and soft, but that is strong and powerful. And it's in all of us, you know, in different balances. So I think that's it for me for right now. Curious about comments or questions?
None.
None. Oh, right, it's the Shin. Yeah, okay, and it's 5:18. So basically, steadily keep on going, keep at it, all the effort up until this point. It's really, really wonderful all sitting together and supporting one another. And please ask for help if you need it. But, keep squeezing all the juice out of this. It's a fabulous opportunity. And we're here in this moment right now. And you too, Kuken. And so please, let's just steadily keep on going. Thank you.